Chapter 9 The Weapons of Old. This morning, at the end of our morning ritual, which did not require discipline for me to participate, I might add, I sat somewhat comfortably in the same frigid river that I could hardly tolerate for just a few seconds at the beginning of the week. The water was about waist deep, but I crouched down so I was submerged up to my neck. Comfortable may not have been totally accurate, but I was proud of how I was handling it. I focused on my long, deep breaths as my body relaxed into the rushing water. Today is the last day of orientation already, Alakoa said to me. It's a pretty straightforward day, mostly logistics and prep for SHIPHT. Then you'll have until next Friday to submit your decision about coming back. They'll go over all this today. Well, I'm feeling pretty set on SHIPHT at this point, I answered right away. I'm scared to death, don't get me wrong, but in the right kind of way. It's a challenge I'm craving now. As I began to speak, I lost focus on my breath and immediately started shivering. I love to hear that, Alakoa replied. But it's important to finish the week fully before getting too sure of yourself. So let's finish the day, go to Harmonia, and then you can go home and sit with it next week. Sounds good, I responded through shivering teeth as I stood up and exited the river. I walked over to a large rock that had warm sun shining down on it and sprawled out on my back, letting it heat me up. Once I regained my composure, I shared some thoughts out loud with Alakoa. You know when you first mentioned Harmonia the other day? I have to admit, I was not really feeling it. I know, he replied. I could tell. Really? Oh. Well, it wasn't like I totally dismissed it, but usually I kind of stay away from the hippie love stuff, that's all. And why is that? Well, it feels kind of silly to say this now, but people back home who are into that stuff just aren't really my people. How do you know? He asked in a challenging way. I guess I don't, actually. I just assume based on, I don't know, like the way they dress and stuff. I shook my head as I said this, realizing how silly it sounded. He didn't respond but gave me a look like, come on, dude. And that's all I needed to get the message. I've been extremely quick to judge people who are different from me. And now I'm learning the lesson. I have a feeling someday I will regret not following this path sooner, I said. No, you won't, he replied. It's on this path you will come to understand the divine timing in all of it. And you'll learn to be grateful for finding it at all. You think so? Yeah, for sure, he replied. Think of it like this. Let's say you were out hiking in the woods on a camping trip and you got lost. Okay. And you're lost for a while and you're getting pretty scared. You keep getting turned around over and over and you're losing hope. Okay, I answered again, wondering if the story was going to have a happy ending. Imagine that you stay lost out there for 3 whole days and nights, terrified out of your mind and starving to death. And then suddenly, boom, you find the path back to your campsite. It's marked, it's groomed, and you realize you were actually really close. Okay. How do you feel? He asked. I feel really happy, don't I? I responded, knowing there was some kind of moral to the story I was supposed to be learning. I'd probably drop to my knees and kiss the ground. Exactly, he answered. And you know what you wouldn't do? What's that? Complain about the 3 days you wasted, he answered, followed by a pause to let it sink in. If you were lost and then you finally found the path, you wouldn't spend a moment regretting the time lost. You would just live in gratitude for having found it at all. I just laid on the warm rock, letting his analogy process. It made perfect sense. But I don't know if I would necessarily consider myself to have been lost prior to this. What about someone who finds the path but didn't realize they were lost? I asked curiously. Well, in this analogy, the way I see it at least, if you're not on the path, you are lost, he said with a chuckle. But as soon as the person realizes they are lost, then the search for the path can begin. He looked over toward me. And you know the funny thing about this work? As soon as we understand that there is a path and decide to start searching for it, we're already on it. As soon as he finished his sentence, he stood up and began to collect his things and head back. I, now knowing how to prepare for these wisdom-filled mornings, reached for my backpack which had my notebook. I was determined to actually start writing down more of these nuggets. As soon as we start searching for the path, we're on it. I scribbled these words into my notebook, closed it up, threw it in my bag, picked up everything, and followed Alakoa up the hill. By the time I caught up to him, we were almost back to the house. So what exactly are we going to do at this festival anyway? It's up to you, he answered. During the day, there are tons of shows and exhibits and concerts, and just different places to hang out and connect with people. I have a few suggestions, but I'll wait. We could just go and see where the energy takes us. I like the sound of that, I answered. Or you can attend the ceremony, he added. Pono, the woman you saw me speaking with yesterday after class, is holding a sacred medicine ceremony that we'd be welcome to attend. I don't know. What is the sacred medicine exactly? There are many sacred medicines, but tomorrow she will be serving psilocybin mushrooms. They're doing shrooms? Really? I replied, completely shocked. No way. They are not doing shrooms, he snapped back. They are communing with the sacred medicine, an ancient teacher. It cleanses our subconscious, aligns our energy centers, and opens the channels for the code to come in. Are you messing with me? Doing shrooms will help me learn the Primordial Code? Not doing shrooms, but communing with the medicine in a ceremonial space with proper guidance and intention most certainly can. I stopped in my tracks and shook my head in disbelief while he continued to walk ahead. I don't know, man. I've never done communed with that medicine before, I said. I think I like the first plan better, just sort of taking in the festival. That's fine, he answered, but you don't have to answer right now. Think about it for the day and let me know before bed. Okay, that's fair. But either way, at night we're going to see my boy Sono on the main stage. Who's Sono? DJ Sono Lumen. He's the best DJ in the third dimension. I laughed loudly even though I didn't think he was kidding. All right, I'm down for that. For the final day, we were all back in the amphitheater as one group. The mentors dropped us off and left this time. I guess there was no need for them to be here for the basic preparation and logistics talk. I spotted Charlie sitting by himself on the far side of the entrance, so I made my way over and sat next to him. Hey, Charlie, I greeted him. Morning, Garret, he replied a little unenthusiastically. Can't believe it's the final day already. Crazy, right? Yeah, pretty crazy. You all right? You seem like something's on your mind. He turned towards me as he spoke, not whispering, but for some reason seeming like he didn't want anyone else to hear. They called me in yesterday, he shared in a low volume. Who? The head people, you know, the guy that spoke at the beginning and the people from the interviews. They called a meeting to talk to me. Really? Why? Dr. Gleason told them about my little episode in class. Ah, shit, I replied. So what, they think you're not, stable enough for the program or something? No, nothing like that, he answered. They actually were really proud of how well I'm dealing with the emotions of my past. Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, but they invited me to attend this medicine ceremony tomorrow. You hear about this? Oh, yeah, Alakoa told me about it. Are you going to do it? I don't know. That's what I'm stuck on, he explained. They said most people aren't doing it, but there will probably be a dozen or so students and their mentors. They didn't pressure me at all, but encouraged me to consider it. Did they say why? They said it could be really helpful to work through some of these traumas and release this anger. Okay, that seems like it would be helpful, I said. Yeah, it would, but I've been sober now for a few years. I haven't done a drug of any sort, so I'm just a little worried this could send me spiraling. Oh, I see. I don't know, they tell me it's not really a drug, but I'm very hesitant. I'll have to think it over. Yeah, keep sitting on it. I'm pretty sure I'm not going, but I don't want to sway you one way or the other, I replied as the class got set to begin. We were asked to all get comfortable on the floor of the risers as Hayoko walked down on stage. I couldn't help but laugh at his caricature-esque appearance as he stood in front of the class. I also happen to know he's a total goof, so it's funny to now see him giving a formal presentation as an authoritative figure. The point of the class was to give us nutritional pointers that would help us be fully prepared for SHIPHT. He basically gave us the same information he formally taught me at his house the other morning, emphasizing the life cycle diet to find a harmonious balance with our environment. He gave us 3 ground rules to commit to between now and the start of class. They seemed really simple. Number 1, at least 1 plant with every meal, no exceptions. Every time we sit to eat, there should be a fruit or vegetable on our plate. Number 2, as close to 100% of our diet as possible should come from either the ground or a tree within 100 miles of where we live. Or if we choose to eat animals, those animals should have only eaten from the ground or trees within 100 miles. He mentioned this would be the best way to synchronize all of our systems with the natural biorhythms of the sun and the seasons, keeping our bodies in the lowest state of stress. And number 3, lastly, if we had no choice but to eat from a package, we were to begin learning how to gauge what he referred to as the energetic intent of the product. In other words, was this product created to actually make me a healthier, happier human? Or are there ulterior motives that come at the expense of my health? In his words, whether or not the company makes money on the product is not the problem, as all food companies need to sell their products. But are they committed to giving their customers the highest quality ingredients? Or are they adding artificial sweeteners and chemicals to prey on our addictions? According to Heyoka, this energetic intention is something that comes from the very core of the brand and can be recognized by our bodies when we consume packaged products. It all made sense, but I was not super confident this would be easy to execute back home. Then he moved on to a topic that made us all uncomfortable: fasting. He said that the training at SHIPHT would be starting with an extended fast. He explained that it would vary by personal needs, but likely between 7 to 14 days. A week without food? I whispered to Charlie, who was sitting stone-faced like he just saw a ghost. Shit, was all he replied. The fasting talk brought up a lot of questions from the class, to which Heyoka answered a few, but mainly just reassured us that we will be guided and monitored closely throughout, and that it will be a transformative experience for all. After he finished, we were given about a half an hour to go eat, where we all jokingly exaggerated our fears about the fast as we stuffed our faces. After lunch, we returned to the same spot to meet for what the schedule referred to as logistics and preparation. The coordinator lady, whose name I finally caught, Kathleen, came out to give us the details of the training. Okay, everyone, this is definitely not the most exciting part of the week, but it is obviously very important that everyone is clear on these details. She started off. She handed a stack of folders to the front row student on each side of the room, who began passing them around to the rest of us. This folder has all of the information you need to access the DDC, which stands for Decentralized Digital Common Space. This is our internet, she explained. Normally, it is inaccessible through any standard web servers, but the instructions in this folder will walk you through step by step how to connect without being detected. Don't worry, it's not as complicated as you might think. She held up a sheet of paper. Everyone take this sheet out of your folder, please. We all obliged, taking out a sheet of paper that was very plain and simple. Across the top in big bold letters it said, your name, and underneath, School of Higher Intelligence and Personal Health Transformation, Class 2024.3, which is apparently our class number. Beneath that, there were 2 boxes. One said accept, and one said decline. Once you are connected to the server, you will see a landing page that looks like this, she explained. You won't be able to do anything else or reach any other parts of the DDC until you answer this question. Your answer to this question will determine your accessibility to the rest of the network. If you accept, you will have access to all the information for this class as it's released. That means flight coordination, housing arrangements, class schedules, calendars, and the like will all be found on this platform as we lead into class. If you choose to decline, you will only be granted access to our messaging platform. Here, you will be able to communicate with your mentors, classmates, and other active participants in the project. Unfortunately, you will not receive any classified information about the details of SHIPHT and subsequent operations. I'm sure you understand why that would be. She thumbed through the rest of the papers, scanning over them to make sure she wasn't missing anything important. So yeah, that pretty much covers that. As long as you are connected to the server, you won't be confused about anything. She placed the folder down on the table behind her. Next, we will discuss salary, she continued as everyone suddenly perked up and refocused. We will pay you 150% of your current salary for a total of 6 months. We will begin paying you 1 month prior to the start of training, pay all 3 months you are here, and then for 2 months after completion. This is because most of you will have to leave your jobs behind in order to commit to this. If assistance is still needed beyond the 2 months, it is available, but we will be communicating with you about that more when the time comes. If it happens that you don't need to leave your job, you have the option to still receive your salary or release it back, she continued. Why would anyone do that? A man blurted out who I don't believe I'd crossed paths with yet this week. Why would anyone do what? Kathleen responded. Why would anyone not take the salary? He clarified. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not doing this shift thing anyway, he announced to the room. I like you guys and everything, most of you at least, but let's face it, you're all completely out of your minds. He laughed hard at his joke, a lot harder than anyone else. Some people don't need it, she responded to his original question. Okay, but someone is giving you free money. Why would anyone not take it? I think you need to rephrase the question, she answered. I just told you some people don't need it. So the question should be, why would somebody take something they don't need? He looked back and forth across the room with a sarcastic, is she serious? Look on his face. It's not something, he replied. It's money. And like I said, if you need it, it's yours. That's your decision. We will not ask any questions. So if you need it, or you just cannot logically turn it away, it's yours. She turned back to the class and continued, making it clear it wasn't time to get into a moral debate about money. You will receive 150% of your current salary in your native currency, theft-free, of course, she explained. There is a form in the folder for you to fill out which will ask for your financial figures. A woman in the center raised her hand. What sort of documentation do we have to provide? I'm a small business owner, so my tax returns are a little, misleading, she shared. Can I do like a year-end bank statement or something instead? There is no documentation required. Just answer the questions on the form. We all turned our heads and looked around as if to make sure everyone was equally as surprised by this. Hold on, shouted the same gentleman from a moment ago. So the salary we give is based on what? The honor system? That is correct, she replied stoically. So we could just make up any salary? You could, technically. And you trust us? Should we not? He shut down real quickly. Then after a moment responded with, personally I wouldn't lie, but I'm sure others would. You can't trust anybody. Empirical code, I immediately thought. She turned back towards the rest of the room. Raise your hand if you can be trusted to tell the truth about your salary. Every hand in the room went up. I swear to God, I'm on some kind of hidden camera prank show, he laughed. I've been saying it all week. I keep waiting for a bunch of cameramen to jump out and tell me this is all staged. He shook his head and continued laughing sarcastically, now towing the line between slightly rude and downright disrespectful. Realizing his behavior was not being received well by the group, he tried to redeem himself with a very unconvincing, no offense. Anyway, there is that form and a few others self-explanatory forms you will fill out, Kathleen continued. The rest of your information we already have and everything else you will get on the DDC. I hope to see some of you at the festival this weekend and maybe even back here in a couple of months. Now we will have just a short bathroom break and Chief Ingonyama will be out in a few minutes to close us out. Hello to all you code heads out there enjoying the story. A quick story behind the story for you today. Have you ever heard of a book series called The Ringing Cedars of Russia? If you have, you may have caught a couple of references sprinkled into this story so far, because these books have been a huge inspiration to me, for a few reasons. First off, I read book 1 of the series right around the time I was getting the vision that I should write fiction. And even though The Ringing Cedars are not technically fiction, they are story-based and contain lots of thorough and nuanced dialogue between characters, something I believe is the most effective way to explore alternative ideas and absorb new information. Secondly, and most importantly, is what's happening in Russia in response to the growth and popularity of the books. The first book of the series, the most popular, called Anastasia, has been published for over 20 years now, and its widespread popularity has led to a massive grassroots movement in Russia. At the time of this recording, there are over 400 communities in Russia living by the principles portrayed in the books, many with a few hundred families in each one. That's thousands and thousands of people living in alignment with New Earth principles portrayed first in a book. There's even been some new laws passed called the Anastasia laws that help people shift more easily into this lifestyle. To me, that's very inspiring. Like I say all the time, this was never just about a book or an audio series. This isn't just a story to keep people entertained on their ride to work or while laying on the beach. The true success of this story will be measured in the action it ignites in each of us as individuals. That's pretty much what the Primordial Code is about, right? With that being said, I'd like to briefly introduce Okablo, Modern Tribal Village. Okablo Village is a concept model project aimed at creating the next evolution of neighborhood, a return to the ancient principles of village while maintaining the beneficial aspects of modern society that we do love. In my opinion, the quest to unlock and understand the Primordial Code really begins as soon as the book closes or the last episode finishes and you say, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. And the Okablo Village Project will be the path for those ready to step out of the Empire and build what's next. I'll share a bit more about the project coming up, and much more once you're in Club Okablo. It's a long-term vision, of course, but together it can and will become the reality. Stay tuned for more. The bathroom break chit-chat all hushed as Chief entered the stage for closing remarks. Each of you have had your own unique experience this week, he began, causing me to laugh a little to myself, thinking about how everyone in this room was probably just as blindsided as me once they stepped off that plane. You've been introduced to a lot of new concepts that were likely very unfamiliar, and maybe even a little uncomfortable. And because of that, you are each sitting here as a different person than just a few short days ago. You were thrown into the fire, as they say. Everybody chuckled, even though I don't think he meant for it to be funny. And in that exact moment, I noticed something in the group. For the first time since we arrived, it felt like we were all connected in a more familiar way. It seemed as if that split second where each of us imagined the experience of others, we collectively jumped a level of respect in each other's eyes, and a sense of camaraderie to have gone through this short yet challenging orientation together. And despite how much has changed, or maybe because how much has changed, it is very possible that you have more questions than answers right now. Once again, the room strongly agreed with this statement, as virtually everyone gave some sort of body language signal that he was spot on. How is this all possible? How can we be so free, yet maintain such a great order and coherence? He asked the group rhetorically. Is this possible on a large scale? Is it possible where I'm from? How could we do it? Where would we even begin? I wasn't necessarily aware that I was holding these questions, but as he said them out loud, I realized right away they were still very much in the back of my mind. The idea of a civilization, he continued, coexisting on natural law and individual sovereignty is only a fantasy to most, but in Okablaya, it is a reality. That is why I started this program. I started it to help not only demonstrate what is possible, but also do whatever we can to teach others. After 10 plus years, we have sent over 1,000 Delphins back to help bring harmony between the two worlds, impacting millions of people indirectly. Everyone in the room clapped loudly, although again, I don't think that's what he was looking for. Now it is time to enter the next phase of the project. He picked back up as our claps faded. The project will begin to ramp up in various ways. Well, all ways, really. Some of these changes will be made known to you during SHIPHT, and some new opportunities may present themselves after that. But we won't know until that time comes. One thing for certain, we are adding a special operations unit that will begin to take shape this year, with new initiatives that will increase our impact by orders of magnitude. This team will be working with our Delphins that are off-island with more high-level strategies in the coming years and months. He paused for several moments. I wasn't sure if it was over or he was just contemplating how much he was going to share with us. Why now, you might be asking, he continued. Why now, after a decade of running this program, are there all of a sudden going to be these big changes and more aggressive efforts? This is a fair question, and there are a lot of factors to that answer. However, instead of giving you any of the answers, I'm going to leave you with that question to carry with you as you return home in a few days. He had a slight grin on his face, which was uncharacteristic. Why now? He repeated. Why now? There are many answers to this question, and if you keep it in your mind, they will be revealed to you one by one. And with each answer you receive, you will understand more. Until then, he said as he turned and started walking off the stage, have a very happy Harmonia and a safe trip home. As we arrived back at the house, I noticed that I was pretty exhausted. It was a light day, but as soon as the orientation closed out, I could all of a sudden relax a few degrees deeper. It was a nice feeling, honestly, but I was also looking forward to a good night of rest before the festival tomorrow. As we walked in, Alakoa suggested I just chill for a while, let myself relax. I agreed without any pushback and started making my way upstairs to my room. I was about halfway up the stairs when he called out, "Oh, Garret." "Yeah? Did you make up your mind about tomorrow? For the ceremony?" "Oh, right, no. I haven't really put any more thought into it since we last spoke about it." All right, well, now is a good time to decide. Just let me know so I can plan out the day. Will do, I replied as I continued up the stairs. I dropped my bag on the floor in my room and sat on the bed. That nice, relaxed feeling vanished altogether once I began thinking about the ceremony decision. I also still needed to make a final decision about SHIPHT, which after today's talk has me a little nervous again. Decisions, I thought. Seems like there have been a lot of big decisions on this trip. Wait, I know. I'll call Freya. She offered to help me with these kinds of things when I needed it. I rummaged through my bag until I found her card. I borrowed Alakoa's phone and called her. Hello, Freya? I asked as she answered on the other line. Yes, that's me, she replied cheerfully. Hi. Yeah, this is Garret. We met on the plane a few days ago. I'm not sure if you remember me or not. I certainly do. What can I help you with, Garret? Well, you said you help with decisions, right? And I have a couple big ones on my plate, I explained. Sure thing. Tell me what you're stuck on. I got invited to attend a sacred ceremony tomorrow at Harmonia. And I don't know if you're aware, but my mentor told me we'd be taking mushrooms. So I'm just a little unsure about it. Yes, I'm aware of the mushrooms, she answered with a laugh. And what is your gut feeling about it? My gut? Honestly, I don't really feel like it's the right move. Okay, any reason? Well, the other option is to explore the festival and take in all of the art and music and everything. And I don't know, but after the week I've had, that sounds perfect. Okay, so what is it that you need my help with? With the decision, I responded, unsure of what was unclear to her. You just told me you don't really feel like the ceremony is the right move, and the other option sounds perfect, right? Yeah. So there you go. Sounds like an easy one to me. That's it, I replied. You're not going to encourage me to lean into my fears or challenge myself or step out of my comfort zone or anything like that? That doesn't sound appropriate for this situation, no. Oh. Okay then. So I guess that's it. Great. Is that all you need today? You did say you had a couple on your mind. No, that's it. I mean, obviously there's the whole SHIPHT thing, but I'm feeling good I can make that choice on my own. All right then, enjoy the festival, and remember I'm always here when you need me. Okay, thanks for all your help, I responded as I hung up the phone. After speaking with Freya, I went downstairs to lie out back and relax. I saw Alakoa on the way out. Hey, so about the ceremony tomorrow. I think I'm going to hold off and just go enjoy the festival. Is that cool? Very cool, he replied. We're going to have a great time. I felt instant relief once I told him my choice. And as I laid down outside, I felt the most relaxed I've felt the entire week. That is, until I started thinking about SHIPHT. I already told Alakoa I was in, and I still stand by that choice. But now that it's time to really cement that decision, I can feel the weight of it. Based on what we learned today, the program is no picnic, and the overall seriousness of the project is starting to sound borderline extreme. Sure, hanging around with Alakoa for a few days and getting a little taste of something new has been great, but returning for a 3-month intensive training camp is an entirely different story. I must have been lying for nearly an hour with these thoughts when Alakoa came to check on me. How you doing out here? He greeted me. I'm alright, just trying to decompress a little, I answered. A lot to think about. Can I help? He offered. Maybe, but I know this whole thing is about making my own independent decision. That doesn't mean I can't help, he replied. This morning you seemed like you had your mind made up already. Did something change today? Nothing specific, but after the closing speech I had some fear creeping in, When he was starting to talk about special operations and stuff. I'm starting to think SHIPHT is really some kind of hippie version of Navy SEAL training or something. Well, that's not entirely inaccurate, I guess, he laughed as he responded. So what feelings are coming up when you think of it that way? I guess I'm worried about the commitment to something so intense and so serious, I explained. The way Chief was talking today made it sound almost like war. Alakoa didn't reply right away. He was now sitting next to me cross-legged as I remained flat on my back. It was almost like talking to a therapist, and I had a sense that Alakoa was feeling the same way as he let out a long sigh, making me think we were about to get into something deep. Garret, do you know what my name means? It has a meaning? I didn't know that. Yes. The name Alakoa means spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior? I replied, a bit surprised. That seems like an oxymoron. I know, that's what everyone thinks, and it's because they only know one kind of war, he explained. They only know about physical war, bombs, missiles, and guns. And as real as those are, they are only a piece of the great war underneath it all. The war that the rest of the wars are built on. And that is a spiritual war. Spiritual war? You mean like the whole good versus evil thing? Like in the movies? Actually, yes, he responded. That might seem silly, but have you ever wondered why virtually every story ever told in the existence of humanity has had a theme of good versus evil somewhere down at the base? No, I guess I never thought about it, I replied, noticing as I finished that I was once again saying my tagline, as Heyoka called it, but Alakoa didn't make any remarks. It wasn't the time. Do you think it's just a coincidence that in every place on Earth, in every time period in history, everybody just happened to all tell stories that depicted the same thematic element of good versus evil? Or do you think that maybe it's something that actually exists? And no matter where you go, you can actually see it all around you. The second one, I answered, not totally understanding what he meant, but based on his wording, I knew that that was the answer he was looking for. Of course, he replied, because the eternal battle of good versus evil is universally observable. If you're tuned in, you can see it. You can feel it. You can sense it all around you. So the darkness we were talking about yesterday, that's evil, right? Yes. And SHIPHT is basically a program to turn us into spiritual warriors to fight back. He rocked his head back and forth a few times while contemplating his answer. For simplicity purposes, yes. Well, I guess I'm not fully tuned in yet because I'm oblivious to this eternal battle going on around me, I said lightly. Alakoa paused and looked around for a moment, a look I was now beginning to recognize as his "how do I make this simple" expression. Let me ask you a question, Garret. I ask this often when this topic arises. Okay. Maybe you don't see it with your eyes, but do you believe there's some kind of evil, let's call it energy or force or power or whatever, that exists in the world? Yeah, I do. I never really heard anyone use the term dark force or evil power in a serious way before I came here. But yeah, I know there are bad people out there. How do you know? Well, just watch the news for a few minutes. It's like every headline is about a robbery or violence or just sick stuff. Okay, so based on that, you think there's at least some kind of evil force at play? Yes. Okay, so if there is an evil power at play, where does it stop? What do you mean? Is it just in the street criminals and the neighborhood sickos? No, I guess not. So where does it stop? We see it there, and it stops when? When you get a certain level of education, or make a certain amount of money, or live inside a certain boundary line? Then all of a sudden evil doesn't affect you anymore? No, obviously not, I replied with a snicker. So where's the line? Where does it stop? It probably doesn't. It probably just looks different in different types of people. Exactly. Expresses itself in many different ways. But that's not the message you get from the news, is it? The news keeps you focused on the low-class dirtbags. Because if that's what bad looks like, then good must be the opposite, right? If the darkness is in the back alleys, in the uneducated, in the lower economic areas, then the light must be on the other end of the spectrum, right? It must be the people with the suits on, the politicians who always say the perfect thing, the beautiful ones, the Hollywood celebrities, the experts, the ones with the letters next to their name, the superhero billionaires. They're the ones who shall save us, right? I didn't answer because it was obvious what he was implying. What do you think, Garret? Do you think the evil force is satisfied with its one-victim street crimes and low-class behavior? If there really was an evil force, which you said you believed there was, would it stop there, or would it try to make its way up the chain, to people who have power, control, and resources? He paused and allowed me to register before continuing. If evil wanted to really be evil and reach its full expression of darkness, where would it go? To the top, I replied, picking up on the point. Exactly. The darkness is a source of energy just like the light. All it wants is to grow and spread as far and wide as it can, just like the light, he explained. So if we know it's at the top and we know it wants to grow, what are the chances that it's converted at least a small percentage of people with power? Probably 100%, I answered. Of course, and in return they get more power and more control. It's a perfect deal. Because if there's one thing people in power want, it's more power. And if there's one thing the darkness wants, it's more control, he answered. I tried to process everything he was saying and understand the main point. So now let's put it all together, he said, knowing I needed him to simplify and clarify. What are the chances there is a dark force in this realm that influences the way people behave? 100%, I answered. Okay, and what are the chances that this dark energy finds its way to the rulers of our world? 100%. Okay, like you just said, the chances that at least some of these rulers are consciously acting in alignment with the darkness is 100%, I answered again. And do you think this darkness broadcasts itself out in the open, or do you think it disguises itself in places we least suspect it? It disguises itself, I replied, confident in my answer but unhappy with the realization. Exactly, he replied. You absolutely must understand something, Garret. He waited for me to make full eye contact, ensuring I was paying close attention before stating, the darkest of darkness is that which pretends to be the light. I didn't have my notebook handy to write that one down, but it didn't matter, because the way he said those words stuck in my mind in a way I'll never forget. Now let's take it another step, he continued. If there are rulers of the world acting from a place of darkness while pretending to be the light, what percentage of effort do you think they'd be putting into their goal to bring the population into the dark? 100% effort, I answered yet again, but this time with an oh shit type feeling as the reality of that hit me like a ton of bricks. A moment ago you said you couldn't see it. Now you'll never unsee it again, he said. And he was right. We're up against something that is unfathomably powerful, and this is how we begin to fight back, he explained. With each person that accepts the reality that our souls are under attack and chooses to do something about it, anything at all, we advance. He placed his hands on the center of my chest. I flinched in surprise, but then allowed it. He had his palm on my sternum, kneeling on one leg next to me, eyes closed. Always remember, just a single torch can light even the darkest cave. I just lay there, breathing slowly. My mind wanted to make a thing about the fact that I was alone with another man touching each other, but I released it quickly, knowing this was not the time for insecurity. I have a question, though. I broke the silence. If this battle has been going on for so long, why all of a sudden are we fighting back so hard? It's because we're losing, isn't it? No, he replied immediately. It's because we're about to win. That answer surprised me, but also gave me a jolt. Really? You think so? I know so, he answered confidently. Many would disagree, but I promise you so. See, the common misunderstanding is that because the darkness is so strong right now, so apparent, so overpowering, that it must be winning, right? He removed his hand from my chest and returned to a cross-legged position. But it's the opposite. Meaning everything you're seeing right now, the censorship, the forced injections, the manufactured financial crisis, the weaponization of weather. This might seem like their final push over the finish line. He leaned in real close. But it's not. Not at all. What seems like a push to the finish line is actually the last desperate attempt to maintain grip on a population who is moving to the light and never going back. So it's almost like we're the ones getting close to the finish line, not them. Yes, exactly. And that's why the war is intensifying. How do we get over the finish line? I asked. It's not quite that easy to overthrow the world elites. No. Not overthrow, he answered. Underthrow. Underthrow? I don't understand. This is not physical war, Garret. This is not about using force or power in the traditional sense of the words. If it comes to tanks and missiles, we lose. End of story. Instead, we will win by rising from beneath, by uniting in oneness, free from the chains. This is how you fight a spiritual war. He placed his hand back on my chest. This time I could feel the power pulsating from his entire being. He dropped his head toward mine and spoke in a deep whisper. We win the spiritual war not with force or violence, not with guns or missiles, not with blood or money. We fight the war by returning to the earth for our strength and our security, and the sky for our wisdom and guidance. We win the spiritual war when the weapons of old become new again, the timeless tools of the universe. We fight the war with our music, when we remember the original song of the universe, when we dance in the streets to the heartbeat of our Creator, when we rejoice in the songs of our brothers and sisters, when we sing our hearts open with every ounce of breath in our lungs. We fight the war with our art, when we create from our purest, most authentic self, when we share our gifts with one another openly and freely, when we completely lose ourselves in the process of creation, when our stories and films teach the knowledge of all. We fight the war in our homes, when our families come before all, when we share openly and honestly, when we connect deeply, physically, and emotionally, when we laugh, listen, and cry ourselves into unbreakable bonds of armor, when we both give our love selflessly and receive it selfishly as the abundance of light circulates throughout the collective consciousness. We fight the war in our gardens, when we grow our own food and share it with our neighbors, when we restore the soil and regenerate the land, when we care for our mother the same way she cares for us. We fight the war when we say, "I'm sorry," and "I forgive you." We fight the war when we unplug our TVs and turn off our phones. We fight the war when we talk to our elders and listen to our children. We fight the war when we get off the pills. We fight the war by saying no to the shots. We fight the war when we've had the hard talks, when we draw the hard lines. We fight the war every time we pause to pray, or meditate, or just be. We fight the war when we choose to finally feel the pain. We fight the war with the choices we make behind closed doors, when no one would know the difference anyway. We fight the war when we stand behind our choices, even if nobody is standing behind us and a million people are standing in front of us. We fight the war when we make the simple decision to release the fear and anger and hate and judgment and jealousy and choose instead to simply love. No act is too small. No person is too insignificant. Just a single torch can light the darkest cave, I said, confirming to both him and myself that I understood. Exactly. He slowly removed his hand from my chest, and we both just sat silent and still. "And I guess I'm being called out onto the battlefield," I eventually responded. "Yes, you are," he answered without hesitation. "And if you decide to answer that call, I promise you'll be prepared for victory."
Son, don't bell, to be